Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. My name is Nadian Sands. This, of course, is Learn How to Edit Stuff. And you might be asking yourself, Ian, why is the quality of your camera absolute dog shit? Well, have I got some exciting news for you. I just hit 200,000 subscribers on this channel, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And those of you that have been with me for a really long time know that I never really thought that the channel would blow up in the way that it did. And we are still growing and we are still learning. And I am forever grateful and thankful for all of you that have subscribed and watched my videos and dropped me comments and joined the Discord and everything that you've done for me and this channel. Thank you so much. So instead of doing a tutorial or a thank you video or something extravagant, I figured I would actually start reaching out to creators that inspire me to this day, channels and people that I am continuing to learn from even at this advanced stage that I'm at, and kind of bring them onto my channel and have them educate you via me and also me via me, which is strange. I understand. Stay with me so that you guys can learn from the people that I'm also learning from. Everyone should have someone that they look up to and aspire to be and take in knowledge from so that they can apply it to their own craft. So I'm very excited to be launching this podcast show interview concept thing that I do not have a name for yet, but I'm very excited nonetheless. And today's guest, episode 1 guest, is Evan Abrams. His YouTube channel is ECABRAMS. He has a deep wealth of knowledge and understanding and amazing tips and tricks for After Effects, and he is somebody that I continue to learn from to this day. So without further ado, very excited to get started. Evan, thank you so much for being on my show that I have no name for yet. I'm hoping that maybe by the end of this, we'll have a name. But, right. You know, I just hit 200K subscribers, and I wanted to do something interesting with that milestone and reach out to creators that I, am really interested in and that I learn from and bring them on my channel so that we can talk about stuff and hopefully people can learn. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. Anytime I have a chance to nerd out with my fellow nerds, that's what I want to do. This is the best.
And it's okay to be called a nerd. Yeah. A buddy of mine just got dumped by his girlfriend because he referred to himself as a nerd, and she was like, "Ooh, I'm not about that." And I felt really bad because it's like, dude, everyone's nerdy about something.
There was a time, you and I are of similar age, right? Like we're both in that early 30s time. There was a time when it wasn't cool to be into stuff. Yeah. You're into stuff? Lame. But now I hope that we've come full circle and it's cool to be into things, right? And to be excited about stuff and to just my favorite thing is it's 3D printing. That someone can go deep into these things, which, look, anybody out there who tells you otherwise, it is very sexy to be into something in a big way. That's
especially 3D printing, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I love how you chose that, because now my brain is starting to think about all the intricacies of 3D printing, and it's going off the rails instantly at the top of the show.
Tangent town. That's how we do it.
No, but this is good because the first thing I want to talk about, and for full transparency, Evan and I had a call before this call just so we could get to know each other. I had never talked to him before. He didn't know if I was some weird stalker on the internet trying to get his kidney or whatever the case is. But it's not. And, we just wanted to talk about After Effects and motion design and all that stuff. And the first thing we talked about was beginners will see something and then they just want to learn how to do that thing. Right. But they jump into the deep end without learning how to swim. And so learning the fundamentals of whatever program you're using is so important. You can try to build a house with just a hammer, but if you understand that you have more tools in your toolbox, you're going to build a more effective and probably a longer lasting house.
We would hope.
So, yeah. And so for you, what is your definition of having a deep understanding of the fundamentals? I'm only going to call it fundamentals now, by the way.
Well, that's what this interview is called now.
Is that the name of the show? Did we just the fundamentals?
We'll see. We'll have a ding. We'll put a ding in when we reach the name of the show. Deep knowledge kind of means a kind of meta approach to things, right? To be able to see the game beyond the game. So, okay, I'm gonna use a sports analogy here. You and I are clearly both sportsmen.
Dude, yeah, sports ball? Count me in.
When you think about any skill, it doesn't really matter what the skill is, but you need to work up from doing small things that then build up on top of each other to do a big thing, okay? So the example that I usually use is if you're going to do a layup in basketball, right? You need to know how to dribble the ball first, right? Not only dribble it, but now you have to dribble it while moving. That's a combination of two things. And then you need to be able to transition and jump, which means you now have this third element in, right? Know one thing is its own separate like entity, right? Everything is built of little points that make up that movement. So the same is true in design is true in anything. And part of it is taking large, complex ideas and breaking them into simplistic, understandable ideas. And when they start to see the matrix in that way, that when you look at a complex thing and say, no, that is not complex. That is 10 simple things arranged in a nice way. Deep knowledge is the idea that you're going to have the ability to dissect things, not at the surface level, but to say, oh, I see the mechanism that is in there, you know. Then you can start to apply tools to say, like, okay, well, what strategies do we have to arrive here? And that may come from a lot of analysis, right? We ask people, at least in an academic setting, to look at previously created work and to dissect it, right? To break it apart. But when you're producing original work, you don't get to look at the final picture. You start from nothing and you start adding stuff to it. So deep knowledge allows you to take a large view, break it into small pieces, manageable pieces, and achieve those things and put them together to make something that seems holistically complex. But it's really, at a certain level, very many simple things. That's kind of the joy, you know, when that light kind of turns on for people, I think, when they...
Do you remember in your career at any point when that kind of clicked over for you, where you saw the Matrix?
Yeah, it's probably like yesterday. It was... it's very gradual, I think, that you don't realize you're doing it and then suddenly you're doing it.
I'm doing it! I'm doing it! Yeah!
I'm gonna say like maybe by like the 5th explainer video I was doing, things started to fit together in a more systemic way or systematic way, whichever.
So it wasn't until you started teaching until you really understood that?
Good question. That definitely helped. I'll say that
yeah, because you have to shine a mirror on yourself when you're doing that kind of stuff. But.
Yeah, when you have to start closely and critically examining things. But I think a lot of it came from a lot of the freelancing projects I was doing that came from a kind of close examination of process, because at a certain point you can no longer do things linearly, but then instead thinking them as a circle or a cycle and a process. Those were some of the larger leaps when we go from what we now call like the work of work. You're not doing the task, you're doing the work of work, which is what systems can we do to achieve these things. And it's hard to put my finger on like a moment in which things kind of turned over. Once you see the world in a different way, it's hard to see it in the other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I can't watch anything on television without being hypercritical. Like I was watching the show last night called Songland, and it's a show where all these, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I love Songland.
But yeah, do you actually?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they do this thing where like the artist is coming on. I still can't tell if you're joking or not.
No,
but the artist comes on, and they put lyrics of the song like, you know, on the wall, and they do like this environmental text. And my wife goes, "Wow, that's so cool." And I was like, the mask, you can see the feathering around the hair. Like nobody really tried, you know. And I can't watch anything anymore without that hypercritical eye. And I think once that was the click over for me when I started watching other people's work, and I was like, ugh, lazy. And I was like, oh my God, what have I become?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, now you've become the monster.
I know it's so bad, but this goes back to the original point. I'm going to keep looping back to deep understanding, because I want my audience, and I'm sure you want your audience to know that this is not like, you can make a career out of this. Yes, it can be fun in games, and yes, cool, I can help my friend animate their logo or whatever, but like, you can have a career and you can make this your job and your life and your passion all kind of converging into one thing. And I think you and I have done that, right? Where we got satisfied with one portion of it and we're like, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel because why not? Basically on my channel, I'm going to be giving you guys tips, tricks, and tutorials about how to edit and shoot better videos, because frankly, I'm sick of the crap that's out there on the internet today.
This is Evan Abrams, and today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about animating text and kinetic typography.
You and I made our channels for the same reasons, which is, man, I feel like I didn't have this knowledge that I have when I was learning.
Yeah.
Like I was scouring After Effects manuals trying to figure out things, or, you know, the GOAT, Andrew Kramer.
That's right.
Andrew Kramer. He was the only one for me, you know, that I was like, wow, this dude's insane. But we made our channels to teach the other people. And I think I was originally drawn to your channel because you know, I was looking at something and I was like, oh, if you make 3 rights, you'll get there. And you were like, hey, there's a shortcut right here. And I'm like, oh my God, shortcut. Yeah. So, and then the other part of that was I genuinely could tell that you were doing this because you wanted to just give the knowledge that was in your head to other people. And it wasn't for any other reason other than to like be a decent human being. And I recognized that right away. And I really respect that because you know, other people with YouTube channels and all this stuff, you get all these emails about wanting to promote products and doing all this stuff. And there's some people that go to the dark side and they're like, I'm just in this for money. Haha. But you and I both have careers outside of YouTube. And so YouTube is just a way for us to kind of keep it holistic.
Yeah.
And I think that that's interesting.
I think what's really critical is that when you shift from doing the thing to talking about the thing, you have to remain in context, right? I think about comedians who stop being funny because they're no longer living a relatable life to talk about, right? That's the same problem, right? When you go from doing the thing to talking about the thing, unless you are really taking a deep critical move into it, right? You can slide into academia real hard with this kind of thing and make art criticism part of your day, right? Like if that's the avenue you end up going in. What's interesting is that from a perspective of teaching stuff, I view almost every motion design problem as a puzzle, right? Everything is a puzzle to be solved. I think that's why I'm more of a design person than an art person, because without a goal, there's no impetus to do any work, right? If I'm not.
But you're putting a puzzle together without having a reference image.
Sure.
Usually when people put puzzles together, they look at the box, right? Like you're not looking at anything, which is part of the.
You got to bring your own box.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like, what are you making? I don't know yet. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna try some stuff out and hopefully it'll work. I mean, you know, I've looked at some projects where I'm on like version 24 and I'm like, yes, this is it. And at any point in any of the other versions, anybody that I've showed it to is like, this is dope. And I'm like, no, it's not yet. It's not there yet.
Right.
And so
it hasn't closed the gap for you. It hasn't closed that Ira Glass gap that we talked about of getting to your taste.
And I have this written down and you said it, and I'm going to try to emulate how you said it to me because it was like so Canadian and polite. And it was like, surely you must be happy every day.
Right.
No, I am not happy every day.
I'm dissatisfied.
Yeah, unsatisfied. So let's talk about how this might be a really loaded statement, and I have a bunch of spicy topics, and maybe I'll just do like an ignorant DJ air horn every time we talk about one. So
let's alternate between spicy topics and mild topics so that we don't burn
Yeah, you got to cleanse your
ourselves.
palate in between. Yeah, you got to cleanse your palate in between. I get it. But you said to me like, surely you must be satisfied, and there is a point in the process where dissatisfaction leads to satisfaction, and you have to be dissatisfied in order to eventually be satisfied. So what is your take on that? What's your hot take?
So yeah, it's this idea that what are we doing, right? What is the act that we are doing? We're taking a jumble of garbage and turning it into something that looks beautiful and pleasing for an audience. So a lot of the time, I think it was people think about, we only celebrate the final output of a thing, which is beautiful and wonderful, right? That's all you see on Instagram, the beautiful outputs. That's all you see on Vimeo, beautiful outputs. Motionographer, Wine After Coffee, all these aggregators, we see the beautiful outputs, right? And we forget that the process to get to the beautiful output is a process of refinement, of going through stages of dissatisfaction, increasingly satisfied with this until we arrive at the thing we can ship. This is acceptable. We have created a thing that is acceptable. Garbage, you know, gradient of garbage all the way back to the beginning. And I think that's what we miss a lot. And I think that if you don't love the process of turning trash into gold, and not enduring, but engaging with your dissatisfaction along the process, it is not a very rewarding career. If the only thing that excites you about it is making a beautiful thing, it might not be a thing to do as a career, I'll say, because when you're doing personal projects, that level of dissatisfaction is your own, right? And you can mitigate that fairly easily. You can change your own perspective on it. You can go lower or higher. You can always investigate and pour more time into it. When you start to add external pressures to dissatisfaction, it's not your dissatisfaction and my dissatisfaction. It's a client who has totally other goals, and it's these other elements around, right? It's stakeholders, it's marketing managers. Everyone has more dissatisfaction poured into it, right? So the process is not only your dissatisfaction, but other people's. And how are we going to mitigate that? How are we going to sort of get people to a state of satisfaction by the end of this project? And that is the process that really engages me on many levels. There are a lot of levels to get something out of that for me, because again, it's a puzzle. That's a puzzle to solve.
That's so interesting to hear, because there has been several times where I go through my dissatisfaction to satisfaction, and I hit that satisfaction point, and I'm like, the client is gonna love this. And then you send it and they're like, I hate everything. And you're like, no, why?
No. We didn't align our ideas of what is the satisfying ending, right? Which is what we want to do with incremental short loop feedback, especially on client pieces. I always go back to goals, right? Like, if you're a motion designer, you're working in design, so you have a goal for this piece. Of course you do. You're a designer, right? And because you have an intention at the end by which you can measure success or failure, closeness or farness from that ultimate goal, you can say, how far or near am I to that? And in what ways am I not there yet? And then what do I have to do to make this that? And that's just iterative process, that happens over and over and over again, that you'll never go from A to B in one line. We haven't reached a point of satisfaction by only having this in mind. It's incremental changes towards a state of satisfaction. So anyway, I'm getting, this is the point of the show where I need to drink more water.